with the Russia-Ukraine war happening, and then the economic difficulties rest of the globe and the other countries are facing, India is in a bright spot. So that itself is again a good scenario for India. With this kind of a background, the budget has generally been seen as a good one, and also gives the future how India should progress, etc. And in these kinds of matters, so we have a learned Sri Santanamji, who has been associated with the finance portfolio for many years, and who was in the government service, and who could tell you how the budget and give an overview, and also give the reasons why certain areas have been given the impetus and certain areas where they have cut down and things like that. So it will be a very interesting, insightful presentation from his side. Please make use of this presentation and ask all the doubts which you have in some areas, which will help you in not only in your prelims, but also in your mains and in the interview. Thank you. Once again, I extend a hearty welcome to all of you. Hari Om.
Thank you, sir. As all of you may be well aware, the Union Budget and the Economic Survey are areas of keen focus in both prelims as well as mains. With nation building moving at an unprecedented pace, budget is more than just an annual statement of revenue and expenditures, but has become a projection of the direction the nation is steering itself towards. Now I invite Dr. S. Ram Mohan, member of the Academic Committee of Chinmaya Academy for Civil Services, to provide us a brief overview on the essence of a budget. Dr. S. Ram Mohan is a former Special Secretary to Government of India and a great Indic scholar, highly proficient in both Tamil and Sanskrit literature. I also request Shri S. Ram Mohan to introduce a speaker for the day, Shri R. Santanam, retired IAS officer.
My friend Santanam for giving he is going to give a very inspiring and insightful lecture on budget and economic conditions of India. Why budget? When it came into being, according to history, in 1572, Netherlands presented the first budget. In India, in 1870, the first budget was presented by James Wilson. Then in 1948, the first budget was presented of an independent India by a Tamilian, Dr. R.K. Shanmugam Chettiar. But the seeds of the budget thinking has been there from a long time. Chanakya in Arthashastra says there are 5 important elements for national security. But the most important among the 5 is called it Kosa. Kosa is treasury or financial status of the government. He says the Kosa is the most important thing. So without Kosa, the government cannot function, the security will be endangered. In Tamil text, Tirukural, Tiruvalluvar says, what everybody should do, every administration should do, is preserve wealth. Seiga Purulai, Sirunar Serikarikum, Yakhadanil Kuriadil. Go and make great wealth, government. That is the one weapon. It is not artificial intelligence weapon or interspace traveling weapons. The only weapon which can destroy the enemy's confidence and pride is Purul, Seiga Purulai, Sirunar Serikarikum, Yakhadanil Kuriadil. That's one thing. He says, how the government can survive? What is the status of a government? What is the, what you call, the Raisan the Atar for the state government is Urupasiyum, Ovapanium, Sirupahayum, Seradi Alvadanadu. A country should have these three things. Urupasi, it should be there should not be hunger in the state. Ovapani, there should not be any disease in the state. Country, state means country. Sirupagai, they should give no quarters for enemy action. These are the hallmarks for the state. That is the present government's budget for past few years, and more importantly today, has emphasized on all the three: Urupasi, Ovapini, Sirupagai, all the three. And the government guy, the president, prime minister has announced development of weapons sector in India, which not only will guard the government, but also will be a great source for income, earning foreign exchange for India. So this is a thing. And in the Mahabharata, when the Pandavas goes into exile, they want some advice from Vyasa. Vyasa gives only one sentence: Akshayam te bhavishyati. Wherever you are, make unfailing wealth. The wealth will protect you. This also, budget is important for the very valuable preservation of the kingdom, country, for the welfare of the people, and thing. And the budget is not merely as she has said now, it is not merely a statement of income and expenditure. It is a statement, a projection for the future. So how it is going to be done, how we are going to do, I don't want to take a lot of your time. We are all eagerly waiting for Sri Santanam's presentation on budget. After that, I will come back to you. Thank you. Be attentive, note down the points, and I want you to, both the online and offline student, be very attentive. This is a very valuable lecture, very experienced person, and I will tell you about Santanam. He belongs to 1972 batch of IAS. He held several important portfolios in government, in the finance department, planning and development, commercial taxes, and secretary to this governor at the time. And the governor was, the state government was dismissed, and the governor's rule was imposed. He was very important. He was secretary to the government, a de facto authority. Then he was the vice chairman of the CMDA. Then he was instrumental in designing the second master plan for Madras city, Chennai city, and infrastructural development. And with all this is normally every administrator does it. But Santanam has made a great mark, like a lion leaving its footprints on the sands. He has left his footprints on the operations, disaster control operations. In 92, year after year, in 2003-4, drought was there. And 2004, an unprecedented disaster struck Tamil Nadu coast, the tsunami. Then he was in charge of the control operations. It won appreciation not only in India, abroad also. At the time I was in USA, I was gone for a lecture tour. And then I was in, what is that place near? At the time there was a great disaster, a typhoon struck there. Then the person told me that the state Tamil Nadu government, it seems they have handled it very well. Even the American government is not able to do it. So we have his contribution as one appreciation everywhere. Then it was followed by floods. Flood also he did tremendous operations thing. So he has, wherever he worked, he has made his mark. That's all of you are hoping to become IAS or service officers. All of you take a person like him as your model. I'm sure all of you will make it and grow in the image of Santanam. So he was Central Administrative Tribunal member. I think he was in Hyderabad for 5 years. And we are very happy today a person of that caliber and eloquence and in-depth knowledge has come here to initiate you on analysis of the budget. I'm handing over to Santanam.
Thank you, Dr. Rammohan, for your very generous introduction. I thank Damodaran and the Chinmaya Academy of Civil Services for giving me this opportunity to speak to you today on the budget as presented by the Finance Minister recently. start. It doesn't move, is it? Yeah. I have never understood why there should be so much excitement about the budget. Everyone goes bonkers, when the budget is presented. And I remember the days when I was a student. It was a time when Mr. Moraji Desai was the finance minister of India. He used to present budget a number of times. And everyone used to look forward to it with trepidation because people will wonder what are the items which are going to cost them more, and whether anything will be cheaper, and what additional taxes will be levied by the finance minister, etc., etc. And two things one can be confident about Moraji Desai. One, he will increase the price of cigarette. He increase the duty on cigarette. And secondly, he will increase the duty on liquor. So these two things one can always be sure of. And the newspapers will religiously carry that also, give prominence to that. And at that time, in those days, many of the items, they were covered in the budget. But now it is not so. Over the years, with the introduction of VAT and then this general GST and all that, more and more items have gone into that basket. So with the result, the decision is taken by the GST Council. Most of the excise items, the duties are decided by the GST Council. So it is not in the realm of budget anymore. Only thing which is, which is relevant in the budget are direct taxes and some customs duty and things like that, mostly direct taxes. And also the general direction in which the economy is going. So that is what we look forward to in a budget. As the speakers before me have said, it's nothing but the financial statement of estimated receipts and expenditure. So there are certain things that which you should know, some terms which you should know. So the revenue budget includes government's revenue receipts and expenditure. The capital budget includes capital receipts and payments of the government. There are two kinds of revenue receipts, tax and non-tax revenue. Now, revenue expenditure is the expenditure incurred on day-to-day functioning of the government and on various services offered to citizens. Now, major part of the capital receipts are loans from public, foreign governments, and RBI. Capital expenditure is the expenditure incurred on development on machinery, equipment, buildings, health facilities, education, etc. These terms are very important when you look at the budget document. You should be able to see, you should be able to interpret the budget. When I go to the next slides, I will tell you. Yeah. So these are some of the other terms which are important, which you should know. Because most of you would have heard about this gross domestic product, which is a very, very important economic indicator. It shows where the country stands vis-a-vis other countries. It's a total value of goods and services produced within the geographic boundaries of the country during a specified period of time, normally a year. Now, in interviews also, and also in written examination, they will ask you about the definition of gross domestic product. So GDP is a very, very important term. You have to be very precise in your definition, because you should say what it means. And the important thing is it is within the geographic boundaries of the country during a specified period of time. So these two parameters are very important. It's a very important indicator of the economic performance of the country. The GDP of India today is $3.469 trillion US dollars. 3.469. In rupee terms, it's roughly about 273 lakh crore rupees. 273 lakh crores. So that is the value of India's GDP. In terms of dollar, it is 3.469. These numbers you should keep it in your mind. And you should also remember that, of course, India has now moved to the 5th position, the largest economy in the world. Because the top two are China, US and China. The US GDP is $25.46 trillion, and China is $17.7 trillion. So we are nowhere near that. But it will take a lot of time for India to catch up with these countries. I will come to that. I'll explain in the last slide. So the revenue deficit is the difference between the total revenue receipts and revenue expenditure. This is the term. Most important term is the fiscal deficit, because that is the excess of total expenditure over total revenue. It is an indication of the total borrowings needed by the government. So ask about, because we often read about newspapers talking about fiscal deficit. Economists also talking about fiscal deficit. Like GDP, fiscal deficit is a very, very important indicator in economics. So it is the excess of total expenditure over, it roughly represents the amount of borrowing that is needed by the government. And the primary deficit is the difference between the fiscal deficit of the current year and the interest payments of the previous one. That is, fiscal deficit minus interest payments is primary deficit. Now, why is budget significant? Of course, the Ramohan and Damaran, they both explained that it delivers the balance sheet of the government. It gives an idea of where the government is. It informs us what happened during the year and what is proposed to be done during the coming year. Shapes the macroeconomic environment in the country, how the decisions of raising resources it also provides signals, reform signals, on which economic agents place their expectations in factors of production. What to produce, how much to produce, how these signals are given. Now, if you see the budget at a glance, the last 2 years, normally we represent we give the, now if you are in 2022-23, so they will, every year we have a budget forecast, budget estimate. So now we have the budget, we have got the budget estimate for 2023. Similarly, last year's budget gave the budget estimate for the current year, 22-23. And during the middle of the year, after seeing how the various sectors are performing, some revised estimates are given. So that is done sometime in October, November. So revised estimates are given to the estimates. So that is the revised estimates for 22-23. And the actuals of the previous year, the 2021-22 are given. So if you see that, so the revenue receipts, you will see these are all in crores of rupees, 26.32 lakh crores. That is the budget estimate, revenue receipts estimates for the coming year. Capital receipts is 18.7 lakh crores. So total receipts is 45 lakh crores. What that is the size of the budget? 45 lakh crores. The total expenditure is 45. So the total receipt in a balance sheet, the receipts and expenditure should tally. So total receipts and total expenditure is you will ask me if the fiscal deficit is the difference between total expenditure and total revenue. How is it that both the total receipts and total expenditure are the same? But naturally, the question will arise how the total receipts and total expenditure are the same when the fiscal deficit is the difference between the total expenditure and the total revenue. I will come to that. I will explain that. So the revenue deficit is, I said, is a difference between revenue receipts and revenue expenditure. So that is 8.69 crores, 69 lakh crores. Fiscal deficit is 17.86 lakh crores is the fiscal deficit, or the figures in brackets or the percentage in terms of GDP. So the fiscal deficit is the fiscal deficit in the for the current year is 6.4. Sorry. No. Yeah. See, this is the fiscal deficit for the estimate, revised estimate. The budget estimate was 6.4. The revised estimate also is 6.4. One important task of the finance minister is to keep the fiscal deficit under control within limits. So some time ago, we had planned that the fiscal deficit by the year 2025-26 should be 3.5% of the GDP. But I think because of the pandemic, they had to revise it. So the fiscal deficit went up because they had to borrow a lot of money. So fiscal deficit went up not only of the central government, but also the state governments. So 6 point, but still, they have managed to keep the fiscal deficit at a fairly, reasonable level, because earlier it was 6.7 in 21-22. So from 6.7, it came down to 6.4. But next year, we propose to have the fiscal deficit at 5.9% of the GDP. Primary deficit is this. So this is the statement that I have taken from the budget document. See, I told you, the revenue receipts, you will see that the revenue receipts have tax revenue and non-tax revenue. So together they add up to the serial number 1. And capital receipts, they are recovery of loans, other receipts, and borrowings and other liabilities. They are capital receipts. Total receipts 450, total expenditure is this. Now, if you see the difference with I said that fiscal deficit also represents the amount that is required borrowed by the government. It represents the market borrowings. If you see serial number 7 here, serial number 7, it is borrowings and other liabilities. It is 17.86 lakh crores. And if you see the fiscal deficit here, serial number 17, that is also 17.86 lakh crores. So the fiscal, the only reason why now the 17.86 crores has been included in capital receipts there. And that is why you are able to tally both the receipts and expenditure. I said that the fiscal deficit is the difference between total receipts and total expenditure. Now the total receipts now has comprised recovery of loans, other receipts, and borrowings which represents the fiscal deficit. So everything is included there. That is how the two figures tally. Now then here the fiscal deficit figures are given here, and then primary deficit. Now coming to the sectoral allocations in the budget, we find that sectoral Now in the last column, I have given the percentage change in sectors share in total expenditure. So there are various sectors in government. Of course, not all sectors are listed here. So what is the share of each sector in the total expenditure? You will find that it's not very less than 3%. So now interest is the percentage change is 1.52%. Transport, you find that it has got quite a large allocation. That is how its percentage change in total expenditure has gone up by 2.16%. This transport, it includes rail transport, road transport, shipping, highways, everything. So that has got a major allocation this year. And that is how the percentage change in sector share in total expenditure has gone up by 2.16%. Defense is more or less same. There is a marginal reduction in share transferred to states. You find that most of the items, they have got, this gives you an idea of where the government has focused. So now the food subsidy has been cut drastically, minus 2.48%. Compared to last year, the percentage change in sector share in total expenditure, the food subsidy is minus 2.48. Similarly, fertilizer, after food subsidy, fertilizer subsidy is another sector which has suffered a reduction, minus 1.49%. And the others are all more or less the same, less than 0.5%. Like defense, transfer to states is minus 0.74, rural development is minus 0.52, pensions minus 0.64, tax administration is marginally increased, agriculture is more or less static, home affairs static, others. So more or less the same, except the two striking features of this statement of this table is that transport has got a major boost and subsidy has been cut, food subsidy and fertilizer subsidy. Now we'll go to some other sectors like education. There is a marginal increase. Energy, some increase is there. Telecom and IT, health, urban development, union territories, social welfare, they are all more or less the same percentages. There's not much of a change. Commerce and industry, 0.17, scientific departments, 0.1, external affairs, no change. Finance, marginal decrease. So this gives a rough idea about what the focus of the budget had been on. Maybe more or less the same allocation for various sectors, except that transport has been given a boost. Now, if you see the receipts breakup of the government, now of the 100% total receipts, I said that the receipts comprise both revenue receipts and capital receipts. Under revenue receipts, you have income tax, corporation tax, GST and other taxes, excise duties, customs, and non-tax receipts. What are non-tax receipts? They are interest, income from interest, dividend, fees, fine, etc. They are all non-tax receipts. So income tax contributes 15% of the total revenue to the government. Similarly, corporation tax, 15%. GST and other taxes, 17%. Excise duty, 7%. Customs 4%. So these indirect taxes, 17, 7 plus 4, 28%. That is indirect taxes, and direct taxes, income tax and corporation tax. And then non-tax receipts, 6%. If you see the capital receipts, borrowings and other liabilities are 34%. So a lot of money has to be borrowed by the government. And then non-debt capital receipts. Non-debt capital receipts are from the sale of assets, in disinvestment. So the money that you get through disinvestment, it is a non-tax capital receipts. And also recovery of loans also, is a non-tax capital receipt. Now, this is the diagram which I have taken from the budget document. It says how the rupee comes from. It's in one diagram. You can see where how much each sector is contributing. Income tax contributing 15, corporation tax 15, GST 17, excise 7, borrowings a big chunk, and then other small marks like non-tax receipts, non-debt capital receipts, customs, etc. Now, expenditure, if you see the total expenditure, interest payments, we have borrowed, over the years, the government has borrowed money. So the interest payments constitute 20% of the expenditure. So it's quite a big chunk of the expenditure is by way of interest. And states share, the central government gives its states the share of taxes and duties, that is 18%. Is based on Finance Commission's recommendations and some formula which is agreed to between the center and the states. And then the central sector schemes, 17%. Then Finance Commission and other transfers, which are other transfers, that is also 9%. CSS is centrally sponsored schemes, that is 9%. Defense 8%, subsidies 7%, pension 4%, others. Now, what is the difference between central sector schemes and centrally sponsored? CSS stands for centrally sponsored schemes. Central sector schemes are 17%. These are the schemes which originate from the central government and they are implemented by the government. The central government is the author of these schemes and they are also the implementer of these schemes, central sector schemes. And CSS, they are schemes which are partly sponsored by the state governments also and implemented by the state government. So central government gives some allocation for those schemes. Now, some major, there are a number of central schemes. There are more than central sector schemes, more than 740 central sector schemes, a large number of schemes. There is one grievance of the states is that the central government is, running this show from Delhi. Most of the schemes are implemented by the government of India, and what should have been given to the states is being done by the government of India. You will find that central sector schemes, 17% of the total expenditure is by way of central sector schemes, whereas centrally sponsored schemes, it's only 9%. And some of the major schemes that you are talking of, like the Mahatma Gandhi National Rural Employment Guarantee Program, the Swachh Bharat Mission, then Pradhan Mantri Gram Sadak Yojana, then Krishi Sinchai Yojana, and Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana. All these are central sector schemes. And centrally sponsored schemes like this Jawaharlal Nehru Urban Renewal Mission and also the scholarship schemes, they are all centrally sponsored schemes. There are only about 30 and odd schemes, centrally sponsored schemes, whereas the central sector schemes are quite a large number. There are some umbrella schemes, which are grouped together, like scholarship schemes. They all are centrally sponsored schemes. Then subsidies 7%, pension 4%, and others 8%. Now, this is a similar diagram which I have taken from the budget document. Rupee goes to how the expenditure is distributed among the various components. Interest payments, you will see the biggest chunk is interest payments, followed by state's share of taxes and duties. And then others have about 78% each, and central sector schemes 17%. Now, coming to the current year's budget, that is budget for next year, it is called Vision for Amrit Kal. They may ask you what is meant by Amrit Kal. Why is it Amrit Kal? What is the meaning of Amrit Kal? In Amrit Kal you can roughly say it's the best time to do, it's the best and most auspicious time to start something. is Amrit Kal. In Tamil, you say Amrita Yogam. So you start work, at that time. So next, how this was, this came about was, uh, recently we celebrated 75 years of our independence. Now, in another 25 years, in 2047, we'll be completing 100 years. So between now and 2047, 25 years are there. So in these 25 years, what all we should do, like Mr. Damodaran said that it has a vision, 25-year vision, this budget. So the vision for Amrit Kal is where should we stand after 25 years? The Prime Minister said, according to the Finance Minister, the budget lays a parallel track of a blueprint for the Amrit Kal, which is a futuristic and inclusive, which Amrit Kal, which is futuristic and inclusive and directly benefiting youth, women, farmers, scheduled castes and scheduled tribes. So this is how the Finance Minister put it. The Prime Minister had mentioned earlier that while India has made rapid strides, there should be saturation of development and 100% accomplishments, with every village having roads, every family having a bank account, every eligible person having health insurance, and every family having gas connection. So this is his vision of India in 2047. That is, every family should have, there should be a saturation of development. Every village, there should not be any village without roads. There should not be any family without a bank account. I mean, already most of the families are having bank accounts. Whether there is money in it or not, that is a different matter. Every eligible person should have a health insurance and gas connection. Of course, from the beginning, this government had been focusing on making gas connection available to the people. So these are some of the goals that the Prime Minister had given the government. So the vision for Amrit Kal is opportunities for citizens with focus on the youth, growth and job creation, strong and stable macroeconomic environment. So these are the three major areas which you will find, if this present government continues in the next, say, 10 years or so, you will find that their philosophy will be, their programs will be guided by this philosophy. This is opportunities for citizens with focus on the youth, growth, job creation, and a strong and stable macroeconomic environment. Now, to achieve this vision, in this budget, the Finance Minister has given 7 priorities. She has called them Saptarishis. Now, what are these 7 priorities? So these are all very important for you. One is the vision of the budget. What is the vision for Amrit Kal? That you should remember, because from the examination point of view also that is important. And what are the priorities of the budget, the focus areas of the budget? This is also very important. One is inclusive development. Then second is reaching the last mile. Third is infrastructure and investment, unleashing the potential, green growth, youth power, and financial sector. So these are the 7 thrust areas called Saptarishi. Now we'll see one by one what are the various programs which are included in this. Now, inclusive development. Now there is 20 lakh crore agricultural credit targeted at animal husbandry, dairy and fisheries in the budget. So 20 lakh crore credit is going to be given to these sectors, animal husbandry, dairy and fisheries. Then a new sub-scheme of PM Matsya Sampada Yojana. There are any number of schemes, with these Hindi names. It's better to remember some of the major ones, because you should not be found wanting if you, they may ask you suddenly what is meant by this. Some major schemes like Swachh Bharat, and then this Awas Yojana, which has got a major boost this year. All these schemes are, they are very important. At least you should know at least about 10 names, major schemes you should know. And what is the allocation for those schemes? If you can remember the allocation also, that would be good. But at least the names of major schemes and what they stand for. Like Awas Yojana stands for construction of houses, shelter. Like is Matsya Sampada Yojana, it is for fishermen's benefit, for the fishery sector. So a new sub-scheme of this Matsya Sampada Yojana, with an investment of 6,000 crore is to be launched to enable fishermen, fish vendors, micro and small enterprises, improve value chain efficiencies and expand the market. So all these are categorized under this inclusive development because you want to carry all these people with you. And then Atmanirbhar Clean Plant Program with an outlay of 2,200 crores to be launched to boost availability of disease-free planting material for high-value horticulture crops. And then 500 new waste to wealth plants under Gobardhan. That is Gobar stands for galvanizing. These acronyms, they are very, sometimes they are very confusing, but at least a few, as I've been saying repeatedly, at least a few you should remember. It stands for Galvanizing Organic Bio-Agro Resources Scheme for promoting circular economy at a total investment of 10,000 crore. Now, in this inclusive development, there are also some other schemes like, the center has proposed to recruit 38,000 teachers and support staff for 740 Ekalavya model residential schools. Now, these schools serve the 3.5 lakh tribal students. So this money will be spent over 3 years. So 38,000 support staff and teachers will be recruited over 3 years to function in these model schools. And also there is going to be a thrust on millets. This is the year of the millet, International Year of the Millet. So the government is going to make the Hyderabad Institute, Indian Institute of Millet Research in Hyderabad, that will be made a center of excellence for sharing best practices, research and technology at the international level. So that is another point that is mentioned in the budget. And there is also a transition from the manhole to machine hole. So made by enabling all cities and towns to undertake 100% mechanical desludging of septic tanks and sewers. So this is another important point to make people move away from the manhole times to machine hole mode. And then next was reaching the last mile. Here, you see, when you say reaching the last mile, that means you reach to the far corners of the country. The lowest, the functionary, lowest unit in the country is the panchayat, the local body. So you go to the panchayat union and then the panchayat. So that is the last mile. When you say 47,018 crore grant for local bodies for all states. And then there is a 61% hike in grant for urban local bodies for all states. And then 66% hike in PM Awas Yojana. That is more affordable housing in tier 2 and tier 3 cities. The smaller cities will get allocation for building houses. So that is a major. House. And then 15,000 crores. This is a very big important scheme. 15,000 crores to PM PVTG. PVTG is particularly vulnerable tribal groups. So this is an important scheme. You please remember, try to remember this. PM PVTG is a development mission to improve the socio-economic conditions of particularly vulnerable tribal groups. So that is another important scheme announced in the budget. And there is an aspirational block program to ensure saturation of essential government services at the block level. I mentioned earlier that the Prime Minister wants saturation of services. at the village level. That is his vision. Now, saturation of essential government services at the block level. 500 blocks are to be selected in this year for saturation of the government services such as health, nutrition, education, agriculture, water resources, and financial inclusion, skill development and basic infrastructure. These are the various services that are to be included in the program, aspirational block program. And then enhanced allocation for Jal Jeevan mission, that is for drinking water scheme, and other key central schemes. So all these are included in this category. Next is infrastructure and investment. One major feature of this government, the present Prime Minister, has been to improve the infrastructure. So in the country, so even when Mr. Vajpayee was the Prime Minister, that a thrust was given to the infrastructure development, all the highways, the Golden Quadrilateral, connecting, Delhi, Bombay, Calcutta, Chennai. So it's a Golden Quadrilateral. So highways were built to connect all these major cities. Similarly, this government also is giving a lot of importance to strengthening the infrastructure of the country, making it world-class infrastructure. That is why you will find that modern trains are being introduced. Vande Bharat. Even 2 days back, I was in Bombay last week, and the Prime Minister had come and inaugurated 2 trains, Vande Bharat trains, one from Bombay to Shirdi, and the other one Bombay to Sholapur, Mumbai to Sholapur, and Mumbai to Shirdi. So 2 Vande Bharat trains. And these coaches are being constructed not only in Perambur, but in 2 other areas also in the north also. So infrastructure is being road highways, quality of, they are going to construct big roads again from Bombay to Delhi. It's going to be, you can cover the distance in, say, in a few hours time by road. So like that, one can go at a speed of some 150 kilometers per hour, like that. So they are constructing roads like that. So beautiful highways, roads. So that is the kind of infrastructure. One important thing about this infrastructure investment is that it will also generate jobs. It will have a multiplier effect, what they call multiplier effect. So it will give opportunities for development along the roadside. So 33% hike in capex. Capex means capital expenditure to 10 lakh crores. It's the highest so far. So the 10 lakh crore is the investment, is the expenditure that we are going to invest, that we are going to incur on infrastructure improvement in the coming year, 2023-24. Similarly, substantial increase in funds for building railway infrastructure. Now, there was, it is, for railways, I think they have given 2.7 lakh crores, I think, to substantial increase in funds for building railway infrastructure, and many stations, even in the northeastern region, which have totally neglected. So many stations are to be upgraded in the northeastern region. And another states also are going to be given interest-free loans. It is a continuing scheme. 1.3 lakh crore for 50-year interest-free loan to states to increase. So it's not only that the government of India is investing in infrastructure, it's also encouraging states to increase expenditure on infrastructure, that is capital expenditure. And by giving them interest-free loans, which is a very, very big attraction for the states. You don't have to pay interest on that. Interest-free loan, which is a big thing. So 1.3 lakh crore for 50-year interest-free loan to states to increase capital expenditure. And then another 10,000 crore urban infra fund to help create world-class infrastructure in Tier 2 and Tier 3 cities. This is also for, as I mentioned earlier, Awas Yojana, this PM Awas Yojana is going to be, they are going to focus on Tier 2 and Tier 3 cities. This one also is infrastructure development also in other infrastructure also in Tier 2 and Tier 3 cities. And then announcement of new airports and heliports to boost connectivity. 50 new airports and heliports, they have been identified to improve connectivity to far-flung areas. Then 5,000 crore for developing roads in border districts. And next is unleashing the potential. One new scheme has been announced, Vishwakarma Kaushal Samman Yojana. This is also an important scheme to help capacity building for traditional craftsmen. Some major, you can also include it under the first item, namely inclusive development, to improve the lot of the craftsmen. There are any number of craftsmen in different states specializing in various crafts, arts and crafts. So to help them and to improve their capacity building, so a new scheme has been announced. Now the details are not known, but it will come in course of time. Then 157 new nursing colleges are to be located alongside existing medical colleges. And then this is 2 lakh crore. I mean, there is a mistake here. It's not additional grant. It is additional credit. Additional credit to micro, small and medium enterprises. 2 lakh crore additional credit, guaranteed credit to micro, small and medium enterprises. And then 2,400 crore for tourism sector to develop 50 new tourist sites in states. Unity Mall to showcase one district, one product, GI products and handicrafts. This is another new idea. There is a mall, Unity Mall in every state to showcase one district, one product. You know, you might have heard of the term GI. I hope you understand what it is geographical identification, you know. So it's a there are certain products which are peculiar to certain areas, certain districts, certain areas. Like the lock, Dindigul lock, that is something which is very famous. Then the Madurai Mallipu in Madurai that is also very famous. And then Coimbatore wet grinder, that is an GI product. Then Bhavani Jamakalam, that is famous. I mean, some of you who hail from these areas, you better know whether your town is associated with any of these GI product, because somebody in the committee, you know, if you are attending an interview, somebody in the committee may be knowing about that and he may ask you. And if you don't know about it, it will look bad. So after all, there are only about 10 products in Tamil Nadu which are GI products. So which you can easily remember. Bhavani Jamakalam is one, in the Salem fabric, and then Pattamadai Pai, and then Nagarkoil temple jewelry. Temple jewelry is very famous in Nagarkoil. And then Karupur Kalamkari painting, Karupur. Then Sirumalai Hill banana, Sirumalappadam. Yeah, so that is very expensive, but it's very tasty and very good. So some of these are GI products. Now the idea is that they should be showcased to everybody, should know about these products. So in these Unity malls, every district they will have one district with one product, you know, specialize in one product, and that is made known to everybody. So to popularize, it's one marketing strategy also. And then pharma industries to benefit from new policy on medical research. So there is going to be a thrust on pharmaceutical industries. And then artificial intelligence is gaining momentum day by day. So all of you must have been familiar now with the ChatGPT. So, and artificial intelligence is catching up. So 3 centers of excellence for artificial intelligence to be set up in top education institutions. Next is green growth. So this is another important area which is gaining, you know, a lot of attention now. So 19,700 crore for green hydrogen mission to boost production of green fuel in our refineries. You know, there is a lot of concern in the world about carbon emission. So how carbon is increasingly carbon dioxide is being increasingly emitted by the various refineries, and how the atmosphere is getting polluted. So we want to have safer fuels, so green fuels. So 19,700 crores for green hydrogen mission to boost production of green fuel in our refineries. And then there is another scheme called Amrita, the Rohar scheme, to be implemented over the next 3 years to encourage optimal use of wetlands, enhance biodiversity, carbon stock, ecotourism opportunities, and income generation for local communities. And another new scheme, which with an acronym MISHTI. It is mango. You should know what is MISHTI. It's a mangrove initiative for shoreline habitats and tangible incomes. As I said, it is very difficult to remember all these names and also the expansion for these, but better to know at least a few, some important ones. Mangrove initiative. So it is to be taken up for mangrove plantation along coastline and on salt pan lands. So to prevent erosion, sea erosion, mangrove plantation is very, very essential. And our coastline is always under threat. So better to have some protection. So mangrove initiative. And then the PM program for restoration, awareness, nourishment, and amelioration of Mother Earth. So that to promote use of alternative fertilizers and balanced use of chemical fertilizers. This is another change in direction from the chemical fertilizers to alternative fertilizers and balanced use of chemical fertilizers. Next is youth power. So I mentioned in the beginning Amrit Kal, so the focus will be on youth. There is an agriculture accelerator fund which incentivize young entrepreneurs in the rural economy. Then National Digital Library will be set up for holistic learning platform for children and the youth. Then there is one Pradhan Mantri Kaushal Vikas Yojana. So to be launched to skill lakhs of youths within 3 years, covering new age courses for industry like coding, artificial intelligence, robotics, mechatronics, 3D printing, drones, and soft skills. These are all, major new areas of development. So the government doesn't want India to be left behind. So they want to start courses, for industry and also for upgrading the skills of our youth. Then the National Apprentice Scheme, that is direct benefit transfer of stipends to over 47 lakh youth. And 30 Skill India International Centers to be set up across different states to skill youth for international opportunities. All these are aimed at employment generation to enable people to get skilled so that they get employment, not only in India, abroad also, for international opportunities. Next is financial sector. This is the last of the Saptarishis. The National Financial Information Registry to be set up to serve as the central repository of financial and ancillary information for facilitating flow of credit, promoting financial inclusion, and fostering financial stability. So all the information, financial and ancillary information, will be available at the National Financial Information Registry. And similarly, measures to be taken to enhance business activities in GIFT IFSC. What is GIFT IFSC? GIFT is Gujarat Industrial Financial Tech City. That is GIFT. And IFSC, this is the first internationally known under the financial sector, in the financial sector, this thing, developed by the country. GIFT City, the Gujarat International Finance City. Now, the idea is to make it an international financial hub. And then a new small saving scheme called the Mahila Saman Savings Certificate is to be launched. It's not a big scheme, but nothing very major about it, but it's still a lot of publicity has been given to it. Though you can deposit money up to 2 lakh rupees in the name of women or girls for tenure up to 2 years at a fixed rate of interest. The interest rate is slightly above the normal rate, 7.5%. So to enable poor people to invest money so that, they can keep it for 2 years at a high rate of interest. And this another financial sector direction given by the government is that fiscal deficit of 3.5% to be allowed for states. So the state's fiscal deficit is now, it cannot go beyond control. The government says that if it exceeds, then the government will not give assistance to some of these states. So they're saying 0.5% is tied to power sector reforms. Unless you bring about reforms in the power sector, you will not be allowed to have a fiscal deficit. Fiscal deficit means what? Allowing the state to borrow. So they can borrow up to 3.5% of the GDP, state GDP. Now, there are some tax reforms also in the budget. I mentioned that this year, unlike last 2-3 years, some new changes in direct taxes regime have been announced. A rebate limit of personal income tax to be increased to 7 lakhs. I mean, there is a stated thrust to the new regime. Last year, the finance minister announced a different regime. You can continue to be in the old tax regime, or you can switch over to new tax regime. And those who are paying income tax, they can either stay in the old tax regime or go to the new tax regime. Now, for certain people, new tax regime is more attractive. For many of us, the old tax regime was more attractive. Now, this year, I think most of it is new tax regime has become the default regime. So people who are paying tax, they can go only under the newcomers. But old timers, they can continue to opt for the old scheme if it is advantageous to them. I think in course of time that also will be removed, maybe next year or the year after next. So benefit of standard deduction of 50,000 to be, so some new concessions have been announced in the new tax regime. So the 7% rebate, that is people earning up to 7 lakhs need not pay tax if they are in the new tax regime. But in the old tax regime, it was only 5 lakhs. Similarly, benefit of standard deduction was allowed up to 50,000 rupees in the old tax regime. Now it has been extended to salaried individuals in the new tax regime. Highest surcharge rate has been reduced from 37% to 25% in the new tax regime. And proposal to limit income tax exemption from proceeds of insurance policy with high value. Tax benefits to cooperatives and startups. Now, new cooperatives that commence manufacturing activities till 31/3/24, they can get the benefit of lower tax rate of 15%, which is presently available only to manufacturing companies. So some tax benefits have been given to cooperatives, and similarly startups also. And sugar cooperatives, people who are the payments made to sugarcane farmers in the last for the period up to assessment year 2016, that can be claimed as expenditure now. So which is a major benefit to the sugar cane sector, people who are in the sugarcane industry. So these are some of the benefits given to cooperatives and startups. And in the indirect taxes, number of basic customs duty rates on goods other than textiles and agriculture has been reduced from 21 to 13. So the number of slabs in income tax also has been reduced from 6 to 5. Similarly, basic customs duty rates also reduced from 21 to 13. And some new schemes have been announced for better governance, like DigiLocker to be set up for use by micro, small and medium enterprises, large businesses and charitable trusts to store and share documents online very securely. Then central processing test center to be set up for faster response to companies through centralized handling of various forms filed with field officers under the Companies Act. Then primary cooperative societies, primary agricultural cooperative societies, you will find in every village. Now there are about 63,000 primary agricultural cooperative societies. They are going to be computerized, which is a major step with an investment of 2,500 crores. So that is taking computerization to the village level. And then IGOT Karmayogi, it's an integrated online training platform launched to provide continuous learning opportunities for lakhs of government employees to upgrade their skills. And then number of compliances, reduced. So your various forms are introduced, have to be filled up by companies. So that number of compliances have been reduced, and more than 3,400 legal provisions decriminalized to enhance ease of doing business. Because India ranks very poorly in ease of doing business. So the government is aware of that, and they want to improve our standing in the world. So these steps have been taken. And then PAN, permanent account number, will be used as the common identifier for all digital systems of specified government agencies to bring in ease of doing business. They will ask for your PAN number everywhere. So here, if you want to do business. And then phase 3 of e-court project to be launched with an outlay of 7,000 crores for efficient administration of justice. So for e-court project, that is phase 3, already 2 phases have been completed. Phase 3 is going to be launched now. So these are the other important announcements made in the budget. Now some allocation to some major schemes. I mentioned about this Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana. You will find that from 48,000 crores, it has been increased to 79,590 crores, which is a big boost. Similarly, Jal Jeevan Mission from 60,000 to 70,000 crores. And Eklavya Model Residential Schools from 2,000 to 5,943 crores. And scheme for faster adoption and manufacturing of electric vehicles, EVs. So that is from 2,900 to 5,172. And Northeast Special Infrastructure Development Scheme, 1,400 crores to 2,400 crores. It's an inclusive development scheme. Northeast Special Infrastructure Development Schemes. These are allocation to some of the major schemes. What are the major takeaways from the budget? Now, generally the budget has been welcomed by everybody. As Mr. Damodaran mentioned, it's a very good budget. Last 2-3 years compared to the previous years, in spite of poll pressures, next year the government is going to face, the central government is going to face elections, general elections. Despite that, the finance minister has gone for growth, boosting both investment and consumption. Normally in a pre-election year, you will get only subsidies, increase in subsidies. This year they have reduced the subsidies. They have gone for growth so that, you can, generate employment. You can improve, increase growth, you generate more consumption, more employment. So, and then adhering to fiscal consolidation. I mentioned that the fiscal deficit, now the idea is to reduce it gradually to about now 4.5% is the target for 25-26. Earlier it was 3.5, now it's 4.5. Now they have come to 6.8 to now 5.9 is the fiscal deficit target for the coming year. So adhering to fiscal consolidation, revenue deficit, primary deficit, and fiscal deficit, all of them are showing a curve like this. They are coming down like that. So that is one thing. And then enhanced capital expenditure should crowd in private investment. So capital expenditure, increase the capital expenditure, the private sector also will be interested in investing more money in development. So, and substantial allocations to achieve energy transition and net zero objectives and energy security. You will see that there is a thrust in the budget. One is infrastructure development, then this green green power, that is another thing that is very, very important. And then focusing on innovation and digitization. So digitization, that there has been thrust ever since demonetization to increase digitization in our economy. So focusing on innovation and digitization to drive inclusive and green growth. These are the major takeaways of the budget. Oh, so there are some areas which cause concern, in the budget. So I have listed a few items. See, a drastic cut in outlay for Mahatma Gandhi National Rural Employment Generation Scheme, which is a major scheme, all this for the last few years for rural employment. So it assured 100 days of work for people in the rural areas. But now it has been cut from say 89,000 crores that is a revised estimate for the current year to 60,000 crores in 23-24. And the rural economy is still to recover from the rigors of the pandemic. The government's answer is that, this is going to be made up in other areas where, we have increased allocation in other areas. But still, our agriculture sector contributes about 46% of total employment in the country, even today. So that is the case. I think this gives a wrong image about the government, that you are reducing the allocation for rural employment. Secondly, the allocation for rural development as a whole has decreased from 5.8% of the total budget in financial year, the fiscal year 23 to 5.3% in fiscal 24. Then PM Vikas, that is Vishwakarma, that Yojana scheme, does not spell out the financial outlay and the mechanics of implementation. There's a scheme for craftsmen for improving the lot of craftsmen, but what is the outlay and how is it going to be implemented? That has not been specified in the budget. And then funding for the new scheme Mishti, that is also not very clear. They are saying it's going to be generated from various other schemes. So, but it's not very clear. Food subsidy has been cut by 1.97 lakh crore. I mentioned in the beginning itself that food subsidy and fertilizer subsidy have been reduced. So 5% lower than 22-23 BE and 31% down from RE. So the withdrawal of additional food grain scheme, there was one scheme which was giving free rice for extra 5 kg of extra rice to people. Originally, government was giving on the PM Yojana, what is it called? PMA. What Anna Yojana, I think. So earlier they were giving 5 kgs at a reduced rate, 3 rupees for rice and 1.5, 2 rupees for wheat or something like that. And then 5 rupees free rice during the pandemic. Now this 5 rupees free rice has been removed. Now that has been the other 5 rupees, 5 kilos has been made free. Earlier they were charging 3 rupees and 2 rupees for wheat, rice and wheat. That has been made free now. So totally earlier the people were getting 10 kgs. Now they are only getting 5 kgs. And they may get 5 kg free, but the other 5 kg they have to buy from the open market, and for which they have to pay extra money. So it is really not a big concession as the government is making out to be. Food subsidy has been cut. The withdrawal of additional food grain scheme will force the poorer sections to buy rice from the local market. So open market. So that is another area of concern. And then the budget allocation for the Ministry of Minority Affairs has been reduced by 38% for the financial year compared to 22-23. So here the answer is that, so the minorities are covered by all these schemes. So there is no need for such a huge allocation, separate allocation for the minorities. That is the argument given by the ruling party. So these are some of the points which can be made against the budget. Now, bouquets and brickbats in any budget, you can predict whatever you predict, you can easily predict what will be the reaction of people to the budget. So the ruling party will say it's a wonderful budget, it's a great budget, it will foster growth, it will boost employment, everything like that. But the opposition will say it's a useless budget. There is nothing in it for the common man. So there are some general terms. Now here you will find that the Prime Minister has said the first budget of Amrit Kal will build a strong foundation for building a developed India. It gives priority to the deprived. This is what the Prime Minister has said about the budget. Now, Mr. Chidambaram from the opposition, he has said that the budget shows how far the government is removed from people and their concerns for life, livelihood, and growing inequality. Whereas the Confederation of Indian Industry, all the industrialists will say, because they want to play safe, they will always say whether the budget is good, bad, or indifferent, they will say it's a good budget. But here, I think he has said it's a brilliant balancing act. This is what the president of the Confederation of Indian Industry has said. And the Chief Minister of Tamil Nadu has said the budget has let down the people of Tamil Nadu because he belongs to the opposition group. So he says the budget has let down. If he was the ruling party alliance, he would have said that there are many good features in the budget. So like that, that's how it's all in the beholder's eye. And the Times of India editorial says it is perhaps the best budget since 2014. Smart economics, confident politics, and credible fiscal numbers. I think it more or less reflects the majority view that because in a pre-election year to present a budget like this without cutting down subsidies and then promoting growth, that calls for a lot of courage and a lot of confidence. The government is confident that it will come back to power. So that is why they are going ahead with this thing. Whereas if they had been on a weak wicket, they would have announced more concessions, more subsidies. So, and the Hindu editorial says the budget proposals are heavy on these government's trademark acronyms, all these various PM, XYZ schemes, trademark acronyms describing the various schemes, but relatively light on details. And that is what the Hindu editorial says. And the executive director of IMF says that the public capital expenditure and the financial sector will contribute significantly to growth. This is what the general economists say, that it's a good budget, it's a balanced budget, and it will promote growth and it will contribute to the growth. Now, conclusion, I was mentioning about the GDP in the beginning. Now, India is now the world's 5th largest economy, having overtaken UK recently. IMF projections are that India will pip Germany. So 2 countries are above India now are Germany and Japan. So India will pip Germany in 2026 and take the 4th position. We are now in the 5th position. And overtake Japan in 2027 to take the 3rd position. And going by current trend, it will take centuries for India to overtake US and China. But if India's growth rate is 14% and the rupee remains stable against the dollar, and both are big ifs, India can overtake US and China in 2045. As early as that, India can overtake, provided our growth rate is above 14% and the rupee stands firm against the dollar, which has not happened in recent times. 14% growth they have achieved once in the past, but this is a very, very tall order. But if that can happen, if it's a miracle, it would be a miracle if it happens. If this miracle happens by 2045, which is closer to the centenary year of our independence. 2047 is the centenary year of our independence. If we can become the #1 economy in the world by that time, that will be the greatest achievement which we can be proud of. So we should keep our fingers crossed.
We'll all be in service.
Right? Yeah. So this is how I look at it. So we have to hope for the best. And of course, it calls for a lot of effort on part of everybody. Everyone has to work hard and everyone has to contribute to the economy. You all have to study and you have to pass the IAS exam and you have to work. And then you have to work very hard and then contribute to the economy. So this is, yeah, you should have the confidence that you will do it. You will do it definitely. If I'm sure many of you can do it if you work hard. Hard work, there's no substitute for hard work. If you work hard, you can make it. So do that. If first you should have the passion. If you are really interested in doing something, you should have the passion for it and you should work for it. If these two are there, then nothing can stop you. So let's see, let's hope for the best.
We need two things. You would have passion in the brain and compassion in the heart. Then the whole human being becomes totally incandescent. Do that.
So thank you. So that's all I have to say about the budget. Hope it was of some use to you.
You're one of the most brilliant lecturers.
Thank you for your insights into the Union Budget 2023-24, sir. It is extremely nourishing and fruitful session that not only covered the budget in its vastness, but also in its depth. I believe the session gave us clarity on both the basics of the budget and the nuances of the newly announced budget, especially with respect to its thrust for growth in infrastructure, energy, transport, and other sectors, as well as areas of concern and ambiguities. I now request Shri S. Ram Mohan to present the memento to Shri R. Santanam as a token of our appreciation and gratitude.
Time is
Appreciation. That's excellent.
The floor is now open for questions and question and answer session. We request our online participants to post their questions in the chat box or on comment section of the Zoom and YouTube respectively. In-house participants may raise their hands to ask their questions.
Silent. Ask.
Yeah.
So not a question really, but there was before the budget was announced, around a month and a half before the budget was announced, the government had said that the MGNRA, the Mahatma Gandhi rural scheme, is not as effective, and they wanted it to be checked in because despite providing 100 days of assured employment, there was no improvement in the state poverty status of they were not moving in the there was no vertical mobility among the people. So would that be a reason why there was a cut in the?
No, that's not correct, because they never gave 100 days employment. So, and whatever employment was given, the money has not been paid to the states. That is why, the revised estimates was much more than the original estimates, budget estimates, because they had to pay arrears. And now also they have to, now the experts say that you have to allocate more than 1 lakh crores to give even from 60 days employment. Now what they have allocated is very little. So it's not even sufficient for 20 days employment. That is the allocation now. No, but it was helping, definitely it was helping the rural people. Let we can see whether there are other schemes are able to make up for that.
There's a question
So
from online. Lata Ganesan, she's a principal of she's asking fertilizer subsidy. Hariom sir, fertilizer subsidy has been reduced. Won't this have an adverse effect on agriculture? Please throw some light on this. Fertilizer subsidy has been reduced. Won't this have will this not have an adverse effect on agriculture?
No, see, they are going to, government have said that they are going to encourage use of alternative fertilizers, a mix of chemical fertilizers and alternative fertilizers. So no, the government, they have said that they are going to encourage the use of alternative fertilizers and also mix of chemical fertilizers. So I don't think it will affect very much. So fertilizer subsidy, just because some it has been cut, I don't think that will affect very much agriculture very much. But to some extent, yes, it will to some extent. Yeah.
But you have to tread very carefully, seeing from the experience of Sri Lanka. The
Yeah.
major problem came because of total substitution of
Chemical fertilizers
chemical
by
fertilizer
organic.
with natural fertilizers.
Yeah, another reason which they are expecting is the oil prices are coming down because of imports from Russia. So because of that, the cost of production of the fertilizers also will come down, thereby reducing the subsidy amount. That is one expectation they are having.
So there is the 33% increase in infrastructure. You mentioned the multiplier effect. Can you elaborate on it?
Can I elaborate on it?
On the multiplier.
Multiplier effect. Yeah. You see, if you spend more money on roads, supposing the rural areas are not connected by roads. So when you lay roads, why is it important that you have roads? Because so that people can move from one place to the other. So when you move from one place to the other, you search for employment, or you can bring employment in the village. You can bring development in the village through roads. You can introduce transport to that road. If you have roads, you can introduce transport. You can have trade businesses along the roadside. So all these are there. So all these will bring in, it will follow. Like you have a metro railway line. See, along the line, there will be growth, isn't it? So similarly in the highways also, when you have highways, on either side of the road, there is development. There will be flats coming up, construction activity coming up. There will be other economic activity that is taking place. So because of that, more employment will be generated. Consumption also will increase.
The best testimony for the multiplier effect is borne out by the new economic policy of Franklin D. Roosevelt after the great crash in 1928. He started the NEP. What he did is all this multiplier effect of building dams and roads. Tennessee Valley Authority was put, dams were put everywhere, and roads were connected. So it developed agriculture, it developed employment, it also developed infrastructural connectivity. But one single lag, multiple effects were generated. So always intelligent investment brings in multiplier effect.
They have formed what?
Lithium.
Lithium. No, I don't know about.
See,
You can.
lithium is the most important input for batteries, like reusable batteries. So far it was imported, and it was a main input for most of the microelectronic systems today. At one stroke, by discovery of lithium deposits in Jammu and Kashmir, Riasi Valley, called Riasi Valley, where they found out lithium. So you will make a quantum jump in production of reusable batteries, which are the inputs for most of the microelectronic equipments today. So we will, as Taiwan has grown in IC manufacture, chip manufacture, we will also grow in microelectronic manufacture by use of that single input. It's a very major achievement. So it is possible that, like, if we developed more, then we will even overtake Japan very soon than the planned growth rate.
See, lithium, as he explained, is used in batteries, reusable batteries. Now, currently, they are all in the electronic devices, but then bigger and larger batteries, which will require more lithium content, are being used in motor vehicles, cars, electric vehicles. Now, the government is thinking of increasing the proportion, the market share of the electric vehicles in the coming years. And there are some numbers being thrown about. If they are talking about 20% of electric vehicles in another 7 years, 2030, then that will have a very large requirement of lithium batteries. Because as of now, that is the one which is the most preferred battery. Now, that kind of a number, if you have to do, you have to import batteries from China because you don't have access to lithium. Lithium is available in majorly in that triangle, that is Bolivia, what is that, Chile and Argentina, then Australia and the US and other places. There are 7, 8 countries they're talking about. But then China has tied up with all those that lithium triangular countries. And from there, they are getting lithium and we have to buy batteries from them. Now, this will change the scenario that for India, within use in India, we would be able to get the lithium for our own production. And later on, if it is surplus, we can also export. So this way, it will be a good booster for our economy.
China doesn't have huge lithium deposits. What they have is the processing facility for lithium, which is mined from countries like Argentina, etc. So we are even nearer. So we will be able to do it much better than China if you have the heart and will.
We have one question from our student Shivapriya. Hariom sir, in this budget, there was a huge focus on the tribal livelihoods. What would this new perspective on tribals entail for improving the conditions of particularly vulnerable tribal groups, sir? Please elaborate.
Affect the vulnerable tribal groups. What is the question?
In this budget, there was a huge focus on the tribal livelihoods.
Yeah.
What would this new perspective on tribals entail for improving the conditions of particularly vulnerable tribal groups, sir?
So there is a new scheme that has been announced for improving the lot of vulnerable tribal groups. So that is 1,500 crores or 15,000 crores have been. So new scheme has been launched. So I think that will focus on their livelihoods.
What she means is whether it will interfere with their regular way of life.
That is, maybe she wants to know whether it will affect their
Normal
normal
way
life,
of life.
whether
You can unmute and
Anybody meanwhile wants to ask any question?
Sir,
see 15,000 crores is the new scheme. 15,000 crores for PM PVTG, particularly vulnerable tribal groups.
Come on.
sir, allocation for transport like railways and roadways are massive, sir. But at the same time, the government is reducing subsidies and food grains are reduced, sir. Is government is focusing on infrastructure development, but they are removing these types of things. What is the government saying, sir?
See, you cannot have everything. No, you have to have some trust areas. Now, I said in the beginning that this government is focused on infrastructure development. They want to improve the infrastructure. It is their understanding that if you improve, if you spend money on infrastructure, it will have a multiplier effect. So it will generate growth, it will generate jobs, and it will promote, it will improve the economy. So this is the government's philosophy. Now, subsidy, if you keep on giving more and more subsidies, you are increasing the reliance of people on the government. So I think you should move away from the subsidy regime to the growth regime. I think that has to be done gradually because you cannot do away with subsidies altogether. But they have to. But you have only some amount in the kitty. How to distribute it is what you have to do. It's what the finance minister has to do. Now, how to do it without affecting anybody very deeply. So this is the exercise that she has undertaken, and she has focused on infrastructure. And subsidies has been reduced because some people will be affected. If you cut the subsidies, I mentioned that some people, they will have to go and buy rice in the open market. So that is the poorer sections will be affected. But everything comes at a cost. So you cannot have everything. If you keep that also, then your fiscal consolidation will not take place. Your fiscal deficit will go up. You have to borrow more from the market, and your interest payment liability will be more next year, the year after next, like that. So that will again affect the budget next year and the year after next. So you have to balance it. It's nothing with like, in a household budget also, we take into account so many things and then balance our budget. Similarly, at a macro level, this is very.
Secondly, development of infrastructure, for instance, developing railway lines, fast moving goods trains, that itself will have a multiplier effect by transferring food grains from growth areas into deficit areas. So the price of food grain in these areas will come down. So that will substitute for the subsidy you are getting. So you combine at one stroke the developmental initiative with subsidence. So like subsidy by itself is not a negative thing. You have to intelligently synchronize both. So the development of goods transport will bring down the price of food grain, bring down the price of fuel, everything. So that is a combined effect of.
Giving freebies is all right up to a particular point, but at some point we'll have to move away from that.
You have to break away from it.
You have to move, and then you have to rely on yourself, your ability, your capacity to work and then earn money. That is what you should generate.
As Sarah has explained. So you have to strike a balance. You have to reduce the subsidy and withdraw. The point is, if you tell a person in a village that your subsidy is being reduced, then how is he going to eat? He has to buy from the open market rice. That's what Sarah has explained in the slide. Now, what happens by putting a capital construction of a road, he will get some employment. With the additional income that comes, he is going to buy the rice. So while reducing the subsidy, you are also giving him opportunity for earning the livelihood. And he says, no, I do not know how to do this job. Then they are talking about skill development. They are talking about Yakalvia schools, teaching. So like that, there's a lot of interlinked things are there to equip him to learn the skills and to earn money. And with that additionally earned money, he will buy partly the ration and partly from the open market. So slowly this is being done. So one is being brought down gradually, the other one is being lifted. That's why this focus on the budget is on growth, because it is only the growth which will give additional employment and additional receipts to the thing. So that is what is the balancing that they are talking about.
Anybody else wants any clarification? Yeah, come on.
Hari Om, sir. Myself, Shivapriya. So, just like what you guys said only, it was about how would it actually interfere with their normal livelihoods? Because when we talk about tribes and bringing about such schemes, even though we're trying for inclusion, won't it be on the negative if something like this happens?
Shivapriya, there was echo. Please repeat your voice.
She's asking.
Yeah, that is always a debate, between development and environment. This comes under that, you see. So
balance.
huh?
You have to strike a balance.
Again, you have to balance it. So, because you cannot keep them under, in their caves all the time. You have to bring them out and then also let them make the choice. If they want development, let them come. So you have to provide opportunities for them.
Sir, I have a doubt.
Yeah.
I am asking about the tax things. In the old regime, there was many concessions like if you invest in insurance and some share market, the tax will be reduced. But in the new regime, they are increased the rebate and the only a standard deduction of 50,000 is given. What about the other things? In the old thing, people tend to save the tax. They invested in things and they get something. But in the new thing, they are restricted. That means they are not encouraged to save the things in terms of the insurance and the mutual funds things. So
No,
what is
if you ask me, I prefer the old scheme to the new scheme. So it depends. Some people are benefited by the new regime. Some people will find the old regime more attractive. That happens to any new scheme, So they have to make a decision. But ultimately, I think they will move to the new regime. So they want to reduce the number of these, concessions and all that, and make it simpler. I think the whole exercise is aimed at simplification of the tax regime.
so? But it
Just to support what Sir is saying. See, today, I don't think you have filed income tax returns. But even though you are educated, it is difficult for you to file the return without one auditor or a chartered accountant or an expert in that field. They want to move away from that and make it really simple so that every individual can file their simple returns. So that is why this scheme is being brought about. But people like us, we are old people, we are used to compulsory saving because of the income tax exemptions. We belong to that tribe. Now, you people, youngsters, you may not agree to that. You may pay a simple formula and then pay the tax, and then you do the saving without worrying about it. So this is a choice which they are giving, but as I is predicting, this old scheme may go away after 1 or 2 years. Then you are under compulsion to go to the new scheme only.
And you may have some other opportunities also to save. There may be other schemes which will encourage you to save. So it's not as if your choice of saving is completely taken away from you.
Any government will encourage saving.
Yeah.
That goes with investment.
Yes, I think he was.
I have one clarification observation. India's taxpayers are only 6%, whereas UK 98%. They can afford health system, good health system, everything. And we are also aspiring the same. But how are we going to? Now, in the unorganized sector, there are people in a month earning more than 2 lakhs. Just an example, they work for 3 hours, for example. Morning, they deliver milk packets.
Yeah.
Say 1,000 milk packets per packet, they collect 50 rupees. And within 2-3 hours, he ends. He's not paying tax. How are we going to cover these people? These people who are making a lot of money and they have assets. They are not. They are very happy.
All
these
these
people.
No,
So
see,
just
more
6%,
more and more people are being brought into the tax net. The idea is to avoid to prevent tax evasion. They concentrate on preventing tax evasion. Avoidance is legal. Evasion is illegal. There are people who are evading tax. So the government want to plug the loopholes in the act by making evasion impossible. And bringing in more people, you see, then you have to decide at some point whether it is because whether the volume of work would justify bringing so many people. You also have to have inspectors and then staff in the department to process all those things. Whether it is necessary to bring everybody in the tax net, whether it is worthwhile doing it, at what point we have to stop. These are decisions which they have to take in consultation with the experts. And I'm sure that's what they are doing. Yeah, I think so.
Thank you for your eager participation. Any further questions can be sent to Ram Mohan sir directly or be mailed to the institute. They'll be forwarded to the faculty.
Manikanta, our student, only one question is there. Is there anything in our budget that stabilizes the value of rupee against dollar?
I cannot see. These are all very complex
There are so many
issues.
factors.
There are.
It's
It's not a simple. It's not a simple
It's
thing
not
that
a
the
budget
budget can
exercise.
do that.
It's a
To stabilize
combination
the
of
rupee.
physical exercise.
No, if that is
Financial-
possible, they would have done it long ago. See.
Very complex. Okay.
I now request Shri V. Manikandan, Principal, Chinmaya Academy for Civil Services, to render the vote of thanks.
If any of you have got any doubts still to be clarified, you are already running later than the scheduled time. You can forward or send the email to Jessica or to me. We will answer your question.
So, on behalf of Chinmaya IAS Academy, Chinmaya Academy for Civil Services, I express my gratitude to Mr. Sandanam sir for his wonderful presentation in regard to Union Budget 23-24. No, he comprehensively covered the totality of budget as well as the information offered by sir would be immense benefit to the students who have participated offline and online. And I am sure that most of the civil service aspirants will derive the benefits as well as add value to this session, right? And I thank you so much, sir. So your wonderful presentation. And I also extend my gratitude to my mentor as well as my director, Dr. Sir Ram Mohanji, as well as Director Damodaran sir. So who are our guiding lights as well as guiding mentors, right? So I am really appreciating sir's tremendous knowledge, as far as UPSC perspective is concerned. I thank you, both of you, sir. And I thank all offline and online participants. You added value to this session. So you are present. Because of your present, this session gained value. So I thank you all, friends. And I also thank the staff members from Chinmaya Mission, their cooperation as well as help they extend to us so as to conduct this session amicably, right? So and we all dedicate our sincere effort to our Guruji. So on behalf of so his blessings, we conducted this session amenably. So so we dedicate our thank to the lotus feet of our Gurudev, right? Thank you all, friends.
We'll have a concluding prayer. Om Purnamada Purnamidham Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadhaya Purnameva Vasishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om.
Interesting and